Hi everyone. So I wanted to get on and do another video about guilt because I was thinking about, I had talked in the other video about how I've realized that it's not beneficial to us, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I got to that realization and actually what it did for me in my own life when I let it go. So there was a point where both of my kids were teenagers and I was in a really bad place, and I had been piling on guilt onto myself for years, ever since I was a teenager, because I had some serious issues as a teenager and did a lot of things I really shouldn't have and got mixed up in drugs, and it was, not a pretty picture. And from that day forward, I was really hard on myself. I wouldn't forgive myself the slightest indiscretion, even though, I would forgive other people readily. And I just kept piling it on and piling it on. And it felt like, almost like I was forcing penance on myself, that I didn't have the right to forgive myself. And that it was my responsibility to continue to carry that weight and punish myself because of the things I had done. So there was a point in time where, by the time my kids were both teenagers, I was in a really, really bad place. And it was affecting every area in my life. It was definitely affecting my children. And there was one day in particular where I got in a really bad fight with my youngest daughter. And my oldest daughter said to me afterwards, she said, "You don't realize, you can't see it. You can't see how bad you're hurting her and how bad she is hurting." And it really stopped me in my tracks. And I'm so thankful for that comment and the fact that she was gutsy enough to call me on it. Especially where I was at that time. I wasn't exactly an approachable person. I really was kind of a horrible mom. So from that moment, or I realized as a result of that moment, so because of that moment, I did some really deep digging, because the only thing I had ever wanted the most in my life was to be a mom. And the fact that I now knew that I was hurting my children was a pretty horrible realization. So as a result of that moment, I did a lot of deep digging, and what I realized was I had been carrying that guilt around and just piling it on and piling it on and piling it on and punishing myself over and over again because I didn't feel like I deserved to be forgiven. But what I didn't realize was that all of that was also a punishment to everyone around me. And so not only was I punishing myself, but I was punishing everyone I loved and everyone that loved me. And knowing that and seeing that gave me the drive and the determination and the courage to really figure out how to forgive myself, because it wasn't fair to the people around me for me to be, that miserable and that hard to be around and that mean. So it really led to the beginning of this transformation, really digging in and learning how to forgive myself and why I should forgive myself. A lot of the things that I had been carrying around had happened when I was a teenager or a really young adult, that, we make mistakes as young people, and all through our life we make mistakes. But the fact that I had been punishing myself for that was kind of ridiculous, and it's just been 100% turnaround over the last 5 years or however long it's been. So I would really encourage you, if you are someone like I was who struggles with forgiving yourself and letting things go, it's really worth it to dig in and figure out what you need to do that. It will change your life. I'm so much more at peace and so much easier to be around. And I think my kids would tell you I'm a much better parent. I'm sure my husband would tell you I'm a much better wife. I think everyone around me would probably tell you, if you ask them, that I'm a completely different person than I was 5 years ago. And it feels really amazing to know that we make mistakes and that I can forgive myself, not just everyone else, and to really have let a lot of that stuff go. So anyway, I just wanted to get on here and tell you a little of the backstory, because it really was a huge transformation in my life, and that moment in time was just such an epiphany that it's really had a big impact on me, and I hope by sharing that I might be able to help someone else. So thank you guys. I love you all. Hope you have a beautiful evening.